So question number one this week is, Notorious, it seems like your show seems to skew to a pro WWE point of view most of the time. I am a big fan of both AEW and WWE. Why do you hate AEW? Like I said, I don't think I hate AEW. I think I dislike that AEW and its hardcore fan set, they portray AEW to be something that it's actually not. And when that doesn't work out, when they use those metrics to portray it as something and that gets disproven, then they just move the goalpost on us. 1 minute, AEW is the place where the wrestlers all go to get creative freedom. That's where they're happiest, right? Is if they're in AEW, they get creative freedom and they're happy. Next, this is the real wrestling company. This is where real wrestlers go. This is where the guys who can do the suplexes and the flippy flips, they go to AEW. When that's disproved, then we move on to, well, no, this is just kind of the indie grunge feel wrestling. This is kind of the bowling alley grunge, as CM Punk says. We got the indie vibe. And then when that gets disproven, it's what is the next goalpost that we have to disprove. When we talk, AEW is just a secondary product. That's what it is. It's a smaller wrestling company, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There is an anti-WWE sentiment from the AEW crowd. It exists on the WWE side as well, but it's definitely not as rampant. I've gone on record as saying I am a fan, and I talked about this in the opening segment. I am a fan of the pro wrestling experience, and that encompasses more than just the suplexes and the flips. That includes the promos, the wrestling, the lights, the pyro, all of it. I enjoy the entertainment of the wrestling business, every aspect of it. And it seems to me from time to time that AEW as a company and AEW as a hardcore fan base almost push an agenda of being anti-casual wrestling. We don't want your kind. They don't want me to be a fan. Because every time I start to sniff like I could like this, it feels like the audience pushes me away. It feels like the company pushes me away. It even feels like some of the wrestlers tend to say things that push the casual fans away. Example, Bryan Danielson. Nothing I'm about to say about Bryan Danielson is meant to be negative because I don't think this is a knock on him. But Bryan Danielson seems to be the ultimate anti-mainstream pro wrestler. Stay with me because I know he's been mainstream. But he calls fans fickle because we're not enamored with the X's and O's. You go out there, you put on a hell of a match and the crowd's not behind it because the story's not there. Because the emotional attachment's not there. Nobody made me care. That's not fickle. That's just how we react. That's just how we react. We react to what we see. And then Bryan Danielson went on to say that he was forced into doing the yes chant at times in his career. And I get it. I get it. Like, Bryan Danielson comes off to me as the ultimate guy who probably would wrestle in a gymnasium in front of 10 people and be completely fine with it. And that's okay. So I'm okay with him saying things like this. But other guys in AEW, I think they try to take the same vibrato and it doesn't work because they would cash the WWE check. I truly believe, like, Bryan Danielson has made a lot of money. He made a lot of money on the yes chant stuff. But I think he would turn it all in just to be a wrestler. He would give it all up. He just likes the wrestling. And so I think Bryan Danielson's right now, he is the avatar for what AEW is looking for. Except that AEW continues to try to compare itself to WWE and continues to make comments. And Tony Khan continues to go, oh, WWE is getting better. Their shows are getting better. Stop comparing yourself. I don't like that. The other thing I have a problem with in AEW is that some of the wrestlers seem to be out of touch with the mainstream audience. You get people like Thunder Rosa, who, when the crowd doesn't react the exact way she wants them to, she throws around words like, the crowd's bullying me. They're bullying me because they're saying that I'm sandbagging. No, I've watched the match. I've watched the match numerous times. I went back and watched the match before I wrote this because I knew if I said this, I needed to be able to stand behind it, and I stand behind this 100%. Thunder Rosa was either sandbagging or she's just really bad at her job. I don't think she's really bad at her job. So I do believe that at that point in time, she was sandbagging. So to be out of touch and to make a t-shirt and to think that you're like, a marketing genius and you're spinning this around and you're turning the joke on the fans, you're just out of touch. You're out of touch. And that kind of stuff just seems to align more with AEW because there's not a bigger entity going, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. And kind of the last reason, and I think this is the reason that most casual wrestling fans fall into when they lose touch with AEW, is it's the IWC AEW hardcore elite fans. There's a group of fans who basically just make it impossible to be engaged. I guess if you just never got on the internet, you could avoid these people. But if you do get on the internet and you choose to have criticism for AEW, whatever that be, they're going to attack you because they will not accept any form of criticism for AEW. It's just, you cannot criticize the product. If you say that AEW wrestlers are too small, they attack you. They're mad, even though it's truthful. Even though if you go down the roster in AEW and look at the size of the wrestlers, they're all small. They're also, when like Luchasaurus is your biggest wrestler and he's 6'3", they're all small, 6'4", whatever. If you mention that AEW has signed just a bunch of WWE guys, they attack you. They tell you, oh, no, we didn't. It's only 25% of the roster, whatever it is. Oh, no, we didn't sign just, or what they tell you is, they tell you, well, those were guys that were misused in WWE. Okay, but you still signed them. You still did you still went the hypocritical route. Tony Khan never had to say out loud. He never had to put this out into the universe. I'm not going to go around and sign a bunch of ex-WWE guys. He didn't need to say that because the guys that they signed, I would have signed them too. I have no problem with you signing Bryan Danielson, Claudio, Malachi Black, Adam Cole. I think those are great acquisitions, but you can't pretend to be a homegrown company and then wonder why all of these people question the hypocrisy when you go out and do the exact opposite of what you say. And it makes me wonder at this point in time, because now we're treading into some new waters here with some of these former WWE guys starting to maybe whisper a little bit that they're not happy in AEW, that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. You see the Miros and the Andrades who seemingly are unhappy, and they've liked tweets that were stating that maybe they were better off in the WWE. Then you have people like Dustin Rhodes, Goldust, whatever he goes by these days in AEW, who's running around sending out mixed messaging. This is all because it's not a cohesive unit right now. And so he's running around telling the world, look, if these wrestlers aren't happy, get the fuck out of here. Okay, that's cool. That's kind of a shitty way to treat someone who just might be a little disgruntled. But then on top of that, he's running around and he's yelling out, we're going to do 2-day pay-per-views. He's got all this information, and Tony Khan has to come back a couple days later and play cleanup to all this misinformation. He goes, no. The vibes are good. The vibes are good in the locker room, and we're not doing 2 days events. I don't know what he was talking about. Look, man, where there's smoke, there's fire. Either these people are unhappy and you talked about 2 days events, or this guy's going senile and he's just saying crazy shit. But one way or the other, it's a plethora of misinformation coming out of AEW, and it's hard to follow. There's a lot to like about AEW. I want to watch CM Punk. I do, because CM Punk, there's a nostalgia. I like CM Punk. I don't necessarily like Philip the person, but as a wrestler, I think CM Punk is one of just all-encompassing the best wrestlers of all time. I do believe that. As much as I hate on him and I say negative things, when you take every aspect, being able to cut a promo, being able to wrestle, his look, I never thought he was undersized. I know people have called him undersized, but CM Punk is one of those people. I'm a big Britt Baker fan. I've said it over and over. I really, really, really like Britt Baker. I like Jade Cargill. I like MJF. I'm crossing my fingers right now that they either figure out what the fuck to do with MJF, get him back in the ring so I can see him on TV, or they just cut him loose and let him go to WWE and we see what WWE can do with him. But I truly believe if Tony Khan would just humble himself a little bit, just maybe humble himself and shut the fuck up for 5 minutes and just enjoy the ride that he's on, because he's doing a half-ass good job running this company. It's definitely, it's trending upwards and not downwards to me, as far as just a good secondary product. But Tony Khan seems to get in his own way more often than not. He puts his foot in his mouth too often. He says things that don't need to be said out in public. I think he just likes the attention. And Vince McMahon liked the attention. I get it. These guys are narcissists. But to yell out, we aren't signing WWE guys, and then to sign every ex-WWE guy he could get, that's hypocrisy, right? AEW at one time felt like it kind of had a homegrown feel, and that feeling is gone. You watch AEW, you watch Dynamite or Rampage now, it's 50% ex-WWE guys. Or some form of WWE pedigree. There's a through line. And I don't care. You call it, oh, these guys made names somewhere else. That's fine. Whatever you want to choose. But it's getting hard to watch an AEW show and not at least see guys that you recognize from a WWE ring.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Ay, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Dope show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should